here's something that people have often asked about. Thanks for helping out, Matt. We're gonna figure out if using a scabbard defensively actually makes sense. If you just have a single-handed sword, say, or even hand-and-a-half sword, perhaps, and you end up in a fight where you could use something in the offhand to defend yourself with. Could you use the scabbard? This is a particularly beautiful one made by Tod, the Swiss saber here. It's one of my favorite swords. It's not about the sword, but hey, we just have to show this off because it's so nice. With a sayaf or a katana, you might have reasonably good luck depending on just how it's made. There are some fairly sturdy ones, but medieval European scabbards tend to be fairly thin. Either way, the idea is if Matt wants to cut me, and I would rather not have that, to try to intercept with the scabbard in some kind of way. Now, statically blocking I don't think is a particularly good idea, just because there isn't much mass in here. You might have better luck trying to strike the flat of the blade and get it out of the way and then cut from the other side. I might have to just go, oh crap, you know, just catch it, just to have something here. I mean, I should be using this, but if it was a feint or who knows what, it's just an additional thing that you could be using. Why don't we try it out? So the way it's mounted, it has some give, which is the idea. It wouldn't be attached to you. The arm would move, etc. It depends on exactly how it's done, because you could also brace it against the forearm. I'm just curious. I just want to give it a try, even though Matt is going to do a better job, so he's going to do it afterwards. So I'm going to do it with my left hand because the right is still out of commission. But just to see, can I already do enough damage here? So rather than going with a big tatami swing, just gonna do it quickly like that. Oh boy, that's already... That was a rather light cut. That's what we've got already. There is a wood core, it's just not all that thick, because why would you? That just makes the thing unnecessarily heavy, and that would be more cumbersome. What would you say, Tod? What are sturdier ones, like fairly thick wooden cores?
No, often they're made of veneers, and so you'd have 2 or 3 layers of veneer. So in that sense, it's a reasonably comparable size to a medieval scabbard, possibly even on the thicker side.
Much more devastating than I imagined it would be.
Yep, there it goes.
So it didn't go clean through. It snapped off the last bit, but I mean, it's like cutting through nothing.
Right? It really feels like it's less effort than tatami.
If anybody watching has done things with balsa wood, like often used in model making, it's like that. It's really... So the scabbard by itself, I mean, only as a completely last-ditch thing would you put that in the way, but you wouldn't expect it to stop a committed blow.
There's always the option to try to brace it against the forearm, which makes it stronger, but if it goes through, you have a problem. So I would not want to try that. Now, there is one way in which I can kind of see it. Imagine this is the entire scabbard. So this would be obviously very risky. There's always the idea to introduce lateral movement and deflect rather than catch it straight on. So cuts. But there's so much that can go wrong. So I would hate to have to do that. If you've lost your sword or you were disarmed and all you have is the scabbard, you have to try something. It's better than unarmed. Just not much. Unless you have a metal scabbard. That's a better chance. That actually works perfectly well. I don't see any problem with that. You could absolutely turn this around and use that as a sidearm, and it has a pretty good heft to it.
It's basically a truncheon at that point, isn't it? Yeah. But I mean, moreover, we actually have manuals showing how to use these defensively. There's a French military manual showing how to use the scabbard in the left hand as a device for parrying.
Yeah, you can absolutely use that. In fact, even if you were to lose this, you can still knock someone over the head with that, and you're going to do pretty well. In fact, that's a pretty decent striking surface here, I would think. So, yes, this is a whole different story. If you have that, then you'll be fine. But a lot of scabbards, at the very least medieval scabbards, I can't really imagine that happening too well. Katana, not sure.
So I've noticed a lot of the modern replicas, the scabbards, the saya on katanas and wakizashi tend to be, they seem to be slightly heavier, denser wood and a little bit thicker than most of the antiques that I've dealt with. So the antique saya very often fall apart and are quite fragile.
Now, if you keep the sword in the scabbard, obviously it's a different story. Depending on how the sword is attached, there are situations in which I could imagine using it while it's still in the scabbard. So if I don't have time to draw and I'm being attacked, I might be able to just do this kind of thing, you know, just rotate the body and just smack them with the scabbard, and now I have a chance. In fact, you just mentioned Fiore has a technique where he draws a scabbard into someone's face, basically, right?
Yeah, so you essentially block with the scabbarded sword, and then as you unsheath it, you try and poke them in the face with the end of the scabbard.
That can definitely be done, and that would be a little bit safer. We have ways of responding to surprise attacks, potentially, with the sword and the scabbard, but scabbard by itself. So overall, I would not recommend unless you have a metal scabbard. I hope you found it interesting, even though it's a fairly obvious answer, but hey, you know, it's always good to try it out, right? So, thanks for watching, and thanks for helping out, both of you, Matt and Todd.